All right. Well, Mary, it is so good to have you here. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being one of my very first guests on our show today. Let's start by having you just share a little bit about your career path and then what you're doing today.
Thank you so much for having me, Wendy. I'm super excited to share our stories. I think that's what life's about, is how do we share our stories and help each other and energize each other with that. So I'm really delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
My career path, I'm a lawyer. I've been an attorney for over 40 years, unbelievably. And I would say that what I'm doing right now is the best way to describe it is I'm in recovery from burnout. And it's been an interesting journey. I was part of the Great Resignation. I quit my job a little over a year ago, and I am on a journey to figure out how to have a more balanced life, a more peaceful life, a life that's more broad and diverse, more rich in being than so focused on my job and my career. And I mean, it's hard. Let's face it, we're at our jobs. Most of us, most people in the world have jobs that are full-time, and we're doing those jobs most of our waking hours, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, and I have been on that very fast hamster wheel in a career for decades, and it's been fantastic. It's been rich. It's been rewarding. It's been hard. But I finally realized that the hamster wheel is not plugged in with someone else at the controls, right? Like hamsters get on a hamster wheel and they actually can choose to get off and out of it.
So true.
I kind of forgot that I can control how fast I run and whether I jump off and take a break. So over my
that.
career of 40 some years, I have actually pivoted about 4 times. I've been in jobs about 8 to 10 years, not by design, but it seems like every 8 to 10 years, I get a nudge, just kind of an instinct that I have to pay attention to. That is usually me kind of walking out on the plank of being overwhelmed and overworked and allowing myself to be there and deciding that it's time to take a big break and a pivot and think about something new. And, there's pivots along the way in our jobs and adjustments that we make to pace ourselves, pace the hamster wheel. But every now and then I found that I have to jump completely out of that wheel, give myself a chance to reset and breathe and think about what my journey is going to be next. So that's kind of where I am. It's been bumpy, but it's good.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I feel like I have had a similar path with pivots, with jumping in, working, just exhausting myself and then making a pivot for a fresh start. But I think also it's kind of been how I've defined success that's kept me on that hamster wheel for so long before making a jump or pivoting. Tell me what is your definition of success, and has it changed over time? Has that caused you to pivot, or has that kept you on the hamster wheel?
It's definitely changed over time. It's a great call. When I started out as a lawyer, I went to a big law firm, and the big law culture is all about what we call billable hours, which means that we had to keep track of our time really by the minute, because our time had to be gathered and put into an invoice that was sent to the client, right? So it was all about billable hours. We got measured based on billable hours, and there were expectations. And in fact, every month, at the end of the month, there was a rating sheet for billable hours by person with your hours. And it wasn't the highest biller to the lowest. It was the lowest biller to the highest. So we would shine a light on the person with the fewest hours.
Wow.
Right. And way back in the day, and things have gotten better, but if you went on parental leave and you didn't have the same number of hours for the year as your colleagues, you were at the top of the list with the fewest hours. And if you were lucky, you could convince them to put an asterisk next to your name to explain that you were on mat leave. It was crazy. It was so incredibly fast-paced, high pressure. Success was all about numbers. It was extremely political. It was hard to know who to trust. On the other hand, that was a great job for me. I did it for 10 years. I was a partner after 5 years. Never thought I wanted to do that job when I was in law school, but it was an extremely valuable learning experience. But success was about climbing the ladder, high billable hours, becoming a partner, generating business. And at that time, I was a mom of little kids. So, it became increasingly difficult for me to make all of that work in a heartfelt way that was good for me and my family. And after 10 years, I left that job. And it was my first big pivot. And a lot of people told me I was making a huge mistake. But I left the job and I went to work at St. Mary's, at my alma mater. So I have 2 degrees from St. Mary's, proud Rattler, proud alumna. And I went there to be a career coach at the law school. So it was a job I had no idea what I was doing. I had never done any coaching training, but the dean wanted a lawyer to coach the law students and give them inspiration and encouragement. And I did that job for about 8 years and loved it. And I will say every job I've had in my career has been the best job ever, despite the bumps and the challenges and how success was defined. Great opportunities to grow and learn. And as it evolved, figure out what success can really mean for me. That it doesn't have to be all about the billable hours and the sacrifices that came with that. But in the coaching at the law school, I realized that relationship building and being helpful to people was more about my definition of success and what really brought me inner energy. It's like, wow, it wasn't just that the pressure was off. Like, we worked really hard at St. Mary's, but what I began to realize is that, and this is a Latin term that I learned as a lawyer, it's called quid pro quo, and it means something for something. For a contract to be enforceable, there has to be something on both sides. A payment for a car, right? It's a quid pro quo. What I realized in relationship building is that there's a real quid pro quo, a something for something. The energy I get by giving and helping was just a whole new way of thinking about success. So I loved that job. That was a big success for me. I did get burned out, and I did have an experience with a boss that led me to believe that I just can't work with everybody. I ended up, we were like oil and water in the end with a new boss. I didn't handle it well. I didn't make it work very well. I left the job and I got a job as an in-house lawyer in a corporation at Clear Channel, which is now iHeartMedia, biggest radio conglomerate in the world. And I began to experience the corporate world and figuring out how to find authentic success in a corporate environment where I wasn't billing time and I was able to build a team and build an opportunity for impact as a lawyer that was more about the relationship building with my in-house clients than it was about keeping track of time. So again, we worked hard, but we did it based on relationships and trust and how to figure out ways to move the needle and be mindful of compliance and law and all those things. And I was there for about 10 years, 9 or 10 years. At a certain point, I got the nudge. It was time to leave. And I've left now 3 jobs without having another job. So I'm really privileged and blessed that I've been able to do that financially. And a lot of people can't. But I would say that one word of advice would be try your best to be financially wise and get advice about how to build a little bit of a safety zone for yourself financially so that you can take a breather when it's important to do that for your mental health. Fast forward, I joined Rackspace. I was at Rackspace for about 11 years. Again, all about relationships. I didn't do it well my first year, and we can come back to that. But success for me is about finding the role and the team and the community that allows me to be helpful and bring my energy, because in turn, that brings me that quid pro quo, that something for something that fills my bucket.
Yes. And when we talked about, when we started talking about this podcast, and I was getting excited about being able to take others on this journey as I'm learning, we had talked about the word burnout, and that it didn't, it just seems a little overused, right? We need to set boundaries and we don't want to burn out. And we were kind of like, okay, what else, what other language could we use to describe this? And you said, it's really the depletion of energy. And I thought that was just spot on for me. Like, when I've experienced burnout, that's how I feel, like just my energy has been depleted. And so in each of those, would you say that's what you were feeling at each, when you said you knew it was time? What does that feel like for you? Or what does depleted energy look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? The words we use.
Mm-hmm.
And part of this was, I found myself saying, I am just burned out. She's probably burned out. And at some point I was like, burned out? Wow, that is extreme. Like, I don't want to feel burned. And I'm not out. I'm still in the game. But
Right.
this race that I just ran, I'm not pulling out of the race. I think I've just completed it, and I've used my energy for it. And it's time for me to take a breather and figure out where my next energy boost can take me, right? So part of it is like the words we use and wanting to be kind to myself and not even refer to myself as burned out, much less someone else. I kind of realized, really, this is all about energy. I read a great article once, and it's when I was at Rackspace, actually, and I was starting to feel this kind of instinct about, my energy is really low. Like, is there a way for me to mitigate this? Or is it something that's calling me to leave and take a pause? And I loved my job at Rackspace. It was filled with opportunity for impact, great community building. I did fail at it horribly in the first year, but that relates to the strengths discussion we might want to have. But I read an article, and the article basically said, look, if you're feeling low on energy, start tracking what brings you energy and what depletes your energy. Write it down, make a list for a few days, everything you did in the day. Rate it 1 to 5. Low energy is a 1, high energy is a 5. And one of the things I found is that my interactions with people where I could really be my authentic self and offer to be helpful and in turn ask for help, my energy went up. I'd walk away from a coffee at Groundtown, our fantastic little coffee shop at Rackspace, where I'd done a one-on-one with someone about a challenge for me at work, or a goal for that person about what they wanted to try to achieve, or even a negotiation over a new role or a compensation challenge, whatever it might be. And I'd walk away and my energy would be at a 5, right? So part of this is paying attention to myself and pausing long enough to listen and be aware of where I find energy and where my energy is depleted. And look, no job is perfect. Every job, every relationship, whether it's personal or professional, is going to have its highs and lows in terms of energy. But we want to err on the side of finding energy boosters instead of energy depleters.
I really love that.
Yeah, it was that exercise I did that really helped me be more intentional about it.
I love that, Mary. And I think, so, I left my job recently at the end of October in 2022, and I've done a lot of kind of soul searching, like what led me to that depleted energy state or burnout. And I think it also, for me at least, in my experience, because I have had jobs where when I go to work, I am being fed, like it is feeding my energy, and I am feeding into that organization and into my team. And, it's just this cycle that is, adding energy to me. And when I look back in my career, there were two different roles that I took, that in the end and pretty quickly felt depleted, like didn't make it the 10 years, like you were able to, but very quickly, one of them didn't even last a full year. I was like, it's sucking the life out of me. It's not playing to my strengths. It's not building me up. I'm not able to pour into others because I'm being depleted. And then the other, I lasted longer than that, but it was the same feeling. And so in hindsight, as I look back at that, the reason I took those two jobs was a career advancement. It was putting success was defined for me by a title or a monetary amount. And I didn't listen to, I didn't ensure that my strengths were going to be played to. So, yeah. And so it's a hard lesson for me, but I'm glad that I'm kind of starting to see it. And so when we talk about strengths, you and I both, and you mentioned it earlier, we've at Rackspace, it was at our core, it was our DNA, right? It was our common language, how we talked about strengths, how we knew how we could interact with others because we knew their top 5 strengths. So I'm curious, what are your top 5?
Yeah. So my number 1 is strategic, then learner, relator, achiever, and activator.
Ooh, I've got achiever, activator also, and relator.
Oh my gosh. I drove people crazy with some of my strengths. I've also got talk about top 10. I've got command, I've got communication. I do have positivity, which I wish was number 1 because I feel positive all the time. But the thing is, sometimes those strengths, they're just so massively helpful to know, and to know about other people with whom you work, right? But we know sometimes they can get dialed up too high.
Yeah.
And I love being an achiever because I just like to get stuff done.
Right.
I just like to get stuff done. Like I like to cross it off the list, and I will put it on the list if I already did it, so I can have the satisfaction of crossing it off, right? But a little story, when I joined Rackspace, I was a 30-year lawyer by then and really kind of thought I knew what I was doing. And, I figured the company hired me for a reason. I was the first employment lawyer and litigation dispute resolution lawyer. So we had some patent litigation going on. We had some employment issues to be tackled, and I dove in. I dove in with all my energy, and I started getting stuff done. And I alienated some people right away, and I didn't even see it. I was like, okay, they're not on board with this project that my boss has told me is a priority. I am going all in to get it done. And at the end of the year, this massive project was coming to a good conclusion. And my boss turned at me and said, "Good job on the project. However, you are breaking glass." And I was like, I don't think he's talking about the glass.
Is that a good thing?
It's like, I don't think that's what he's talking about. Like, I'm already a vice president, deputy general counsel, whatever. I'm breaking glass. He goes, yeah, Rackspace is not for everyone. And my heart sank, my defense mechanisms went up. And he said, you have to think about the long play. If you want to be here for the long play, you've got to go into these things together as a team, cross-functionally outside the legal department. You've got to collaborate. And I was thinking, oh, brother, someone's been telling him lies about me, or misinterpreting things, like he's got it all wrong. All I want to do is be an achiever, right? And I mean, on the other hand, I was devastated. And I went home that night. I cried, no kidding. I was beside myself. I'd left a very high paying job to join this tech company that I was very excited about, but obviously I wasn't doing well and I might not be a fit. And so I was in denial. I was angry, but I was sad. And I finally had this, for me as a person of faith, I had this moment with God where I was able to look in the mirror and be totally truthful with myself and ask myself if there was truth in what he said. And there is. Like, I'm a bulldozer at times. I just want to dive in, push people aside, and get the thing done faster. And by the way, I've got it figured out. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? And so pausing and listening is not one of my top strengths. Patience is not one of my top 5. It's not one of the 22, but you get my point.
Yes.
Right. So I had this moment with myself where I was able to ask, what is my role in this? What is my role in this? And is there truth to this? Be honest with yourself, Mary. And I recognized it. It's who I am. My activator was dialed up too high. I did not understand the culture of my workplace. I didn't stop long enough to understand it. And I needed to pause, ask for help, recognize, and see if I could learn to be more successful using my strengths in this particular workplace. So I think my vulnerability and my willingness to show that I'm an imperfect, vulnerable person who still needs to learn every day of my life how to try to improve and be a better person, helped me to have a very successful 11-year career at the company, where I met with Rackers who helped me learn what it took to collaborate. It wasn't in my vocabulary as a lawyer. I was just top down. Here's the deal. So building a community of encouragers, building a community of helpers who were genuinely interested in my success, and being comfortable relying on other people to help me and not be so self-reliant. All of those things really helped me to learn how to use my strengths and dial them back and dial them up at the right time.
That's amazing. And it sounds like that allowed you to have even more success. Once you realized that and looked in the mirror and had that awareness, you were able to move forward when you could have been, like you said in the beginning, angry or, that's not me. He doesn't know me, so that's great. I think I've had something similar where, after leaving the organization that I left and thinking, well, it's easy to think it's the organization's fault. But when you stop and look in the mirror and realize, the decisions that I had made along the way that got me into that role and stopped what I believe being true to myself, and so that's where I had to look in the mirror and say, this isn't about the organization. This is about me and the truth that I know of myself and what is going to, it was depleting my energy, and I could have made the decision sooner to try to either bring more energy, find ways to get energy for myself that wasn't depending on that organization or that job to do that for me. So
I think that is such a great point. I'd love to stay with it for just a second, because, we're such a work in progress, right? Like there's no magic wand that's going to help us be successful. There's no black and white advice that's going to work for everybody. It's about kind of testing and being open. So at one point I found out at one of my companies that they were very big on executive coaching for leaders. And And it wasn't a remedial thing. It was like a high potential thing, right? And so
Right.
I was seeing that these colleagues in other parts of the business were working with coaches. I'm like, what's that? Like, what's a coach? You know? And I decided, well, I'd like a coach. And I love that I'm a learner by nature because I'm really open to learning and trying new things. So to a point, right? So if someone tells me something, I'm like, wait a minute, really? So I had a coach and the company agreed, absolutely. You want a coach? We're going to get you a coach like you, someone who can really help you step back and look more objectively at your areas of opportunity, a growth and development plan for me, other ways where I can improve and be more effective. So this coach, Jane, she was great. At one point, she had done the 360 and gotten feedback from my peers and my team and my boss and all the people who had good feedback. And she said, there's a book I really want to suggest. It's called The Question Behind the Question, QBQ. It's a really quick book. I think you might like it. So, check it out. And I was like, okay, great. I like to read books, self-help books and improve. We met again 30 days later about my plan and what I was doing. And she said, hey, by the way, did you read that book? And I said, oh, I haven't gotten it yet. She said, QBQ, The Question Behind the Question. I think you'll really like it. It's a quick read. Okay. So I get the book, and the book is The Question Behind the Question. And the tagline is something like, how to stop blaming other people and take responsibility for your own success. And I was like, what? Like, why does she think I need this book? Again, it was a look in the mirror moment.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, wait a minute. I started reading the book and I realized that I was playing a huge blame game. Why doesn't the HR team bring the problem to legal sooner? Why doesn't the executive tell me sooner they need this agreement? I mean, really? Is this a fire drill that has to be done tonight? I mean, I was just blame, instead of asking myself the question that my mom taught me to ask. What is my role in this? And that is the question behind the question.
Yes.
What's my role? What can I do about it? Because, the serenity prayer, if anybody is familiar with it, it's all about kind of knowing your limits, what we can impact and what we can't, where we have an opportunity to contribute and where we have to just say, that is out of my ability to change that. Like I may have a bad boss. The question is there some way for me to adapt to work well with this type of boss?
Right.
So Jane really taught me a lot about looking in the mirror. I mean, and even after being at that point a lawyer for 35 years, I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, Mary, slow down. What is my role in it? And how can I be better at bringing balance to this situation or empowering my team to be more balanced and well in this environment, for example?
That is so beautiful. I love that you said that. And I think it's a great segue too into the wellness piece of it, right? And finding the balance and especially as leaders for our teams and ensuring that not just we are, our energy is being protected, but that we're helping our team to do that as well. And so are there, in your career, and how did you prioritize your wellness or whatever that looks like for you, your well-being?
Yeah, a couple things that come to mind. One is, sometimes back to it being a work in progress, but sometimes I would find that I would really allow myself to go right to the brink of tears, or I would have tears. I would just be so overwhelmed and I would have taken on so much and not really thought about boundaries or limits on how much energy I could expend on something, right? And it reminds me of my closet. And I don't know if you have this, but every now and then I allow my closet to be completely packed with stuff, things I don't wear, things that aren't organized. Like I don't have a perfectly spaced rack of things. I pile it in my life. I pile it on. And then one night, speaking of my closet, I heard this huge crash. I thought someone was breaking into my house. And I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, what was that? What was that? Sounded like it came from my closet. Like, what happened? Got up. I slowly opened the closet door, and my rack of clothes that had become too packed and overwhelmed with weight had crashed onto the floor of the closet. All my boxes that were stuffed on the shelves, all my clothes, everything was like, I couldn't even open the door. In my life, I allow things to pile up, and I take on more and I take on more. And I get to that brink where I think, you know what? I have got to reset. I'm not working out as much. I'm eating too many white, refined carbs. I need more water. So I had to, the next day I had to take everything out of my closet and take stock.
What a great
What do I really
analogy.
need?
Yes.
What do I need? What can I let go of? What can I say? I wish I could keep this, but I can't fit into a size 6. I'm a size 12, maybe a 14 every now and then. It's real, right? So with my work or even personal relationships, it's really hard for me to say no. But I read another great article. And by the way, nothing's original, right? We're all learning from each other.
That's right. That's right.
Right? I read this great article about saying no, and I really have a hard time saying no. And one of the things that I'll remember forever is that there are ways to say no that work better for me. And one of those ways is to say, I wish I could.
I like that.
I wish I could. With authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
I really do wish I could. Because what it says is, I can't. The answer is no. But to me, it's a kindler, gentler way for me to say it. It feels better to me. And I'm being just more respectful of how I need to draw the line and how I need to say things with wholeheartedness, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And so now with my closet, this morning I thought of it because I walked in there and I thought, hello. Every now and then you have to take stock. You have to kind of clear out the things that we can let go of to make way, to be able to open that door to something that's a little bit more balanced and feels more spacious and allows for new ideas and new thoughts.
What a beautiful analogy, Mary. I love it.
Closet. It's the closet. Does everybody have the crowded closet, or am I alone?
No, I do. I do, unfortunately. And this is a great reminder. I need to go clean it out.
Well, and the thing is, I will not put too much. I try not to put too much pressure on myself. So
right.
This morning when I noticed the closet starting to look crowded, I thought, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. I'm good with it and I will go through it. Right. By comparison, I don't put pressure on myself with New Year's Eve's resolutions anymore. I used to okay, I got to write down my resolutions. I'm going to have spiritual ones. I'm going to have work ones. I'm going to have personal ones. I'm going to have health and wellness ones. And literally, I would put all this pressure on myself to make New Year's resolutions that almost it kind of made me feel like I was broken, like I needed to be fixed with all these resolutions. And then by the end of January, I'd forgotten them. Who really remembers their resolutions a few months down? I mean, really?
Yeah.
And yes, I always want to lose 10 pounds, for God's sake, right? I mean, so now what I do is I just do a monthly intention or pause moment. And in fact, my word for January is pause. Each month I have a word or an intention. And at the beginning of the month, I decide what's my word or intention just for this month. Just for this month, I'm going to write about it. It's not a fancy journal. It's just notes. And I'm going to write. And I'm going to be mindful at the end of the month. I'm going to take stock. How was my month thinking about the word pause? And the amazing thing is I've been writing what happens when I pause. And I just would challenge everyone to think about this. When I pause and then fill in the blank. I just got a pen and I started writing. When I pause, I breathe. When I pause, I relax. When I pause, I listen. I open myself up to new possibilities. I'm not as anxious. I have more diverse thoughts about possibilities. I am more collaborative. I'm more cooperative. I mean, the list goes on and on. And it was so refreshing for me to start this monthly thing instead of all these big resolutions. And so it's just one of my tactics to try to have some grace, not put a lot of pressure on myself, but to have some intentions to honor my wellness.
I love it. That's great. And I've heard of a lot of people, I've just kind of heard more and more instead of, those New Year's resolutions that people are picking words and journaling about it. I love it. I think that's a great idea. I did neither this year.
I don't need the pressure right now. Give ourselves a break, right?
Yes.
I'm okay.
Yes.
I'm enough. As my good
Right.
friend Kara Nichols used to tell me every now and then, she'd come by my desk and I'd be all stressed out and my shoulders would be up at my ears, which is always a telltale sign that I'm like,
yes.
And Kara would say, hey, just remember, you're enough.
Aw,
like, I love that. I am enough.
that's right.
I'm a work in progress, but I'm enough.
Beautiful. Okay, this has been so much fun. I want to move into just some fun questions that I'm going to ask all of my guests. The first one is, if you could go back in time to your younger self, like 5 or 6, maybe 7, what would you tell her?
Yeah. Wow. You just want to put your hand on your heart with that question, right? I would tell myself, I would say, Mary, don't worry. You will have moments of fear. You'll be afraid at times during life. It's okay. Because even as an adult, I feel fearful. Like now we call it imposter syndrome, right? But we all have these insecurities, and it's going to happen when you're young, Mary. It's going to happen as an adult. Try to make friends with your insecurity. Make friends with it. In other words, just recognize and honor that it is okay to be afraid or feel insecure. And that will allow you, Mary, to face that fear, lean into it, use it to your advantage. It might make you more likely to tackle something, to dig a little deeper, to study a little harder, try a little bit more. Trying an effort is good if it's not overdialed. That's a whole nother piece of advice I'd give her, probably as a teenager, right? But that's what I think I would say is don't worry about fear. It's natural to be a little afraid. Don't try to stuff it and tell yourself, never be afraid.
I love that. I love that. I'm trying to reconnect with my younger self because I think that's where the root of, our joy and all the things that you start to kind of lose along the way as you get older, reconnecting with your younger self and what she felt. And I love that because it's so true that fear is there to protect us, and that it's okay that it's there. And so that's great advice for your younger self. I would probably tell mine the same thing. Thank you for sharing that, Mary. Now, I love to travel. It's the thing that excites me and brings me joy. There's just something about experiencing a change of scenery that just really invigorates me and motivates me. And so I'm curious, what's kind of your favorite trip or place you visited? And then what's on your bucket list?
So my favorite places are places that involve me having the chance to put on a snorkel mask and put my face into the peace of the water and see the fish and other living things quietly existing in the beauty of nature. And I'm all about trips that involve water or a mountain or a river, a trickling river with just the sound of a little bit of water. I have a sound machine in one of my rooms where I can just kind of put on the sound of water. Trips that bring me more peace. I do like to go and see, and I want to see more of the world, but I don't want trips that are too active with tourists and crowds, I want to find moments of peace, because right now in my life, I'm all about being conscious of what happens when I have too much activity. And a peaceful vacation is one that really appeals to me. On my bucket list, there are a few things that I really want to achieve in 2023. They're not resolutions. They're more of what I would call kind of a personal manifest. One of my sisters, I have 9 brothers and sisters, by the way. So
Wow.
I don't know where I would be without all the support and advice from my family. And my 2 daughters, who are incredible sources of energy and support for me. My sister said, stop telling yourself what you will do or what you want to do, and start manifesting what you are doing, even if you're not doing it yet.
I love that.
It is I am. And so a few things that I'm manifesting. I am expanding my life in more diverse ways outside the law. So I realized at one point, like 99% of my friends are lawyers. I love you all. I love my lawyer friends. However, oh my gosh, there's a whole diverse world out there of different thinking and different ways people make a living, and different, I'm really enjoying expanding my life beyond the law and how I spend my time and having a broader life. I am manifesting overcoming my fear of solo travel. So as much as I am a community person and an extrovert, and I draw energy from being in authentic relationships with people, I want to do that by also traveling to a place by myself, maybe being with a new group, but over, this idea that I have to coordinate a trip with some friends who also want to go to Croatia or South America, that could take me forever, and then I'm going to miss it, right? Because I'm 66. So how many more years do I have to see the world, and what am I going to go do? I'm going to manifest some solo travel with some new groups and new people. And then finally, most importantly, I think I'm manifesting being a really great grandmother. So my oldest daughter, Lindsay, is pregnant with her first child, and I'm going to be a Grammy for the first time. So
congratulations.
Thank you. And I am all about being a really great Grammy to my granddaughter, who will be here in June, and a great mom to both my daughters, Lindsay and Elizabeth, and a great family member to my siblings, and a good friend, and all the hats that we wear.
Yes.
And just finding ways little by little to try to wear those different hats and be in those relationships with a sense of peace. And I'm not there yet. It is a work in progress, but my bucket list is to seek and be in balance with people.
I love that. And I am a Mimi. We have a 3-year-old granddaughter. So it is such a blessing, and such great time spent with them. So I know you're going to love it.
I'll be looking for your tips and your advice. Because life is all about helping each other, right?
That's right. Yes, I'm here for it. Well, Mary, this has been just so wonderful. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. And I'm so glad that we connected on this, and you were the perfect person to have on. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy. This has brought me energy. It's a 5 on that list. And I thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a real joy.
Thank you. Okay. It's a wrap.
What do you think?
I think it was great.
Okay.
It's 10:25. Like, we went way over. I'm going to have to schedule for my others. I'm going to probably have to put more time on the calendar, because I could have actually talked even more, but I caught the time and I was like, ooh, yikes.
You know what? And you may go back, Wendy, and gosh, this is so up to you, but you may go back and say, you know what, I think I'm gonna have another guest who's going to focus on that. Cut it. I mean, whatever you prefer. It really was just a great moment of joy for me to be in the conversation, and you make it easy. I loved the questions in advance. What I tried to tell myself was, and this is, again, nothing's original. I think the best way that people have been helpful to me is storytelling. And so I try to tell myself, don't just tell people what people really need to do is, or what I would do is. I think it's about the story. And I really had the closet moment this morning.
Oh my gosh.
Because I walked into my closet and I decided to go simple, super neutral. And I looked around my closet and I thought, this thing's going to fall down again. And I just kind of had this moment that it's an analogy for life, is just allowing things to pile up to the point where they can crash, and we can crash, and just taking good care to not allow things to get out of control.
Yeah. Well,
But
I mean it. I mean,
story.
I'm so glad that we connected, because I really, just hearing you talk, Mary, I think we're kind of on the same wavelength, and going down the same path, and, or, maybe not the same path, but
no, it is.
Yeah, I think
it's
it
this
is.
journey. It's
Yes.
this journey to a life that brings more moments of peace than not. It's like there's no life that is stress-free. Let's face it.
Yeah.
No life that's fear-free. Like when people say, don't be afraid, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we want moments where we're the word balance is also overused.
Yes.
I was trying to find a different word for it, of just kind of keeping things in check.
Yeah.
And recognizing there are going to be times when things are not balanced.
Yeah.
What's my role in this?
Right.
That's my theme.
Yes.
I stop blaming people. I can't believe he expects this tonight. Guess what? I've enabled that behavior.
Right.
I've been a hero all these years doing it at night.
Yes.
So I totally honor, we are on the same path. We want more peace than less, and more ability to keep things in check. And really the only way we do it is by helping each other.
Yes. I agree.
That's it. And that's the great thing about this podcast, is that's what you're doing.
Yes. It's what I want to do.
Yes.
And so, Mary, if there are other women that you think would be good, so there's I have 5 sessions that I've already got commitments that I'm going to be recording over the next week or 2. But I need more. And so think, if there are other women that you think, are on a similar journey, or have been down the journey and have figured, cracked a code for themselves and how to, make it through.
I'm going to definitely give that some thought, and I'm sure I'll think of some people.
And then I think I'm going to have, she said she would do it. I haven't sent her an official invite or anything, but I'm going to have Kathy Kirsten come talk about strengths. Yeah. Because she just knows it inside and out. And I think it would be a great episode, about your strengths, and playing to your, remembering them and playing to them, and not forgetting that that's what's going to bring you energy,
Oh, yes, absolutely. And not, one of the things we learned about strengths is stop trying to fix the things that aren't your strength. Yeah, we need to be aware of them. We need to be conscious of them, but play to your strengths, and so, oh gosh, she'll be great.
Yeah.
And she's so articulate and energetic and authentic and relatable.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So even if it's not a person, I want to ask about her story, but I really want to hear about the strengths. So even if there's someone that you think might bring a different angle to it, happy to.
Awesome.
To do it. Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Wendy, I'm so excited for you.
Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate the support.
Yes.
All right.
Okay,
and
where can I find your podcast, and tell me the timing?
So I think Friday, February 3rd is going to be my goal to launch. I've already, last night I got on all of I'm on Apple, I'm on Spotify, and then all these little tiny ones. I just went ahead and applied to all of them. And so now my trailer is out there on all of them. And I'm gonna just, I think I'm gonna, I want to,
So great.
thank you.
Really well done.
Thank you.
Mhm.
There are 3 of you that I will have recorded before February 3rd. And so I'm going to try to do the production on all 3 of them and just see what feels like right for that first one. Actually, I probably shouldn't do that as I'm saying it out loud. I'm probably going to go ahead and produce yours and make it first because I need to start promoting,
There you
you know,
go.
so if I can get yours wrapped up and then start promoting it for February 3rd, and then I'll just have, it's going to be every Friday. I'm going to have one release. And
Awesome.
so I know.
I love it. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you.
I
Thanks.
mean, this is great. It is so great. I probably told you this, there was a time when I was thinking about, should I do some coaching? I really enjoy inspiring people and being inspired back and the whole thing. And then I was like, no, my instinct ended up telling me that as much as I enjoy that and will keep doing that in my own opportunity,
Yeah.
ways that I can, it's not a business that I felt energetic about building.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you're doing it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do feel like this podcast is bringing me energy. The one-on-one coaching, I don't know. I'm definitely learning through it. What's like 2 people are asking me for communication and presentation skills. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do consulting. I want to work with you on transformation. I don't want to work with you on corporate skills. I'm burned out. I don't,
Good point.
so,
That's interesting because I would be more interested in, let's talk about how you communicate and advocate for yourself in the job, because it's a thing.
but so I agree with you, but to me, that's more the coaching and pulling out of them. But like this one girl that I'm working with, she's like, no, I want to know, like, I want a skills class basically on communication. I'm like, I don't want to do that. Yeah.
Did I tell you about the workshop I went to on how to build a transformational workshop?
No.
OMG. Okay, do you have 5 minutes?
Yes. I want to do workshops and retreats, Mary. That's what I want to do.
That is the thing. I went to a workshop about how to do it and it was over my head. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I was looking for a workshop for me, a retreat, which I have done, a retreat, which was a really kind of a life-changing experience in so many ways. Anyway, I needed another retreat. So I went to Kripalu. Do you do yoga?
Yes.
Oh, so I'm not a yogi. I really want to, but it hasn't flowed for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, you would love Kripalu. It's in the East Coast. It's with a K. Kripalu, Kripalu, I think.
Okay.
I'll send you a link.
Okay.
And I went to a 3-day, 4-day, and it was a workshop on how to deliver and build transformational workshops. And it was flipping amazing.
Oh my
gosh, you are going to love it.
I have to do it.
It's hard to get there.
Okay.
I had to fly here, fly there. And then I had a car take me out to this retreat center. Beautiful place. I had some really restful moments. I was struggling with my hip at the time and limping. It was a real struggle. I met some amazing people who are delivering workshops, transformational workshops, which I now understand to be something that's life-changing, something that's so impactful, right? Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to send you this info.
Yes. And so you felt like if you wanted to plan retreats and workshops, this would have given you the tools you need to.
Oh my gosh, yes. And during the retreat, we spent time outlining and practicing and delivering a subset of a workshop.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah. And I think mine was all about pivots, because I've made these pivots and I've left jobs without having jobs and gone through that fear and the gut instinct and how to do it and how to blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
And one of them was like relationship building and how to make sure authenticity is at the base of it and all that kind of cool stuff, right?
Okay.
And then I decided, I don't think this is what I want to do. But if I were going to do it,
You would
I
do
would
that.
go there.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'm going to check it out.
I'll send you a link.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so, and I think it's so much, to me, it would be so much better than one-to-one.
Yes. Yeah.
I did a lot of one-to-one career coaching at the
Yeah.
law school, and I've done it for law students and law grads. To me, the one-to-one is just like, ooh, talk about
Yeah.
draining.
Yes.
And then some of it became repetitive for me.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
thing, same thing. Whereas the workshop is taking people from where they are when they arrive.
Yes.
I mean, we did some cool exercises, some cool things. We talked about how to land the plane at the end.
Cool.
You're gonna
Yay.
love it. Yeah, it's good.
Awesome.
All right,
Okay.
I've taken up enough of your time, and I'm really thrilled that I was part of this today. And I know your podcast is going to be a huge success.
Thank you, Mary. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much.
Yes.
All
And
right.
at some point,
Yes.
a podcast with someone, an interview with someone who's been on retreat.
Yes.
Transformational growth.
Yes. Yes.
And this whole word transformation was like, why are we using that word, for God's sake? People don't know what that means. It means life-changing, right? I'm used to transformation in the corporate context, which means layoffs.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's got a negative connotation. Yeah.
It's like, what do we mean by transformation? Oh, life-changing, like big, like something that stays with you for a long time. Yes.
Yeah, you're right. An episode would be good on that.
Yeah, that would be really good. This is gonna be great. All right, let's talk
Mary.
again soon, okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Wendy. Bye.
Bye.